Welcome to this week's episode where we share stories from the barn to the boardroom. Today I'm sitting down with Sheila Jensen, a Canada native who now calls Cortland, Kansas home. From her early days showing cattle in Canada to meeting Kevin Jensen, the love of her life, and running a successful cattle fitting service, Sheila has lived every chapter of ranch life with grit and determination, and a lot of grace. Today, she and her family own and operate Jensen Herefords, one of the most respected operations in the country. In this episode, we'll talk about her journey, the lessons learned along the way, and what it means to build both a family and a legacy and a successful ag business all around the purebred cattle business. You won't want to miss it. Enjoy! We are really excited to welcome Sheila Jensen as our guest for this episode. So welcome, Sheila.
Well, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity, Rachel. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so Sheila and I have been friends for, probably 30 years or more, but we work professionally together through Sheila's business of Jensen Livestock Agency, which is one of the nation's leading livestock agencies. And Sheila is also a part owner of Jensen Herefords in Cortland, Kansas. And so she is a lovely ranch wife, ranch mother, cattle breeder, ag business owner. And so we are really excited to hear a lot of your insight today, Sheila. So we like to kick off each episode with some icebreaker questions. So if you're ready, let's get to it. I already kind of gave this one away, but are you single or are you married?
Married.
So was Kevin your first love, or did it take a while for y'all to meet and get together?
Well, I didn't know Kevin when I first moved to Kansas. I went to college at North Dakota State University. We grew up showing Herefords. A friend of mine brought a bull down here to show because Kevin had a fitting service, and he said he needed a lot of help to go state fairs. Well, my dad always went to the state fairs all across in a lot of states in the United States. So I thought, it'd be fun to do that. So I called Kevin and asked him for a job to go on the state fair road with him, and that's how we met.
Oh my gosh, that's cool. How old would you have been around that time?
Well, I come down August 12th, 1985. So right when I graduated out of college.
Wow. So like 21, 22. Is there an age difference between you and Kevin, or y'all the same age?
Kevin's almost 5 years older.
Okay. How did your parents feel about that? About you just going off on the road with a guy in a custom fitting service?
Well, my dad told me I would hate Kansas because it was way too hot. I'd never want to do that, but they didn't mind. At that time, I was looking for a job and had applied for jobs and got turned down a lot of extension jobs. So I wanted to show cows.
That's a very cool story. And now look at y'all. So tell us about your kids.
Okay, we have 3 kids. Brady is our oldest son, very active in 4-H. And as kids, all the kids, we have a daughter, Brooke. She's married and lives close by. And then Ben's our youngest, going to law school in Washburn. So all of the kids were active in junior national events with the Hereford breed, and Brady did several years with the Angus Association junior national too. But Brady was chairman of the board of the junior Hereford one year, and Brooke was vice chairman one year. And as well as being national queen back in the 80s, 90s, somewhere in there.
It might have been the 2000s. Because I know Brooke is a lot younger than me, and I graduated in 97. So
2014, she was queen. But they were all active with the cattle, active on the farm. We made it part of a family affair. Went to a lot of livestock shows. We were still doing the fitting service when Brady was young. He went with us a lot to different shows, including Denver and that. But then we started to slow down on the fitting and starting our own when we had the family. But Brady went to Butler Community College when he got out of school and judged there. Then he went on to K-State and judged. Went on and helped at K-State in the judging team. Then he went on to South Dakota State and was their coach for 5 years. And now he is back home. He asked to come back. Actually, he was judging Indiana State Fair, and he called and asked if he could come back home full time for the cattle thing and run the ranch. And so we said yes. And Brady's been here about a year and a half helping with the operation, growing it and helping with the sales and managing and working day to day with us. So that's been, and his family's back here. So their grandkids, they live a mile from us.
Oh, that's nice. So I want to still keep going into the icebreakers and then we'll get into a little bit more detail as we go along. But I want to talk quickly about social media. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you like Facebook and how much do you like Instagram if you're on either one of those?
I like Facebook because I get to keep in touch with old college friends, family friends, updated on I like who's getting married, who's having babies, more of kind of a family affair, watching different cattle programs, how they advertise. Probably like Facebook too much, but I actually said I'm going to go off Facebook when I was doing my catalog because I was trying to focus a little bit, not spend hours on Facebook, but I like Facebook a lot. I think it has its purpose.
Are you on Instagram at all?
I have Instagram. I look at it a little bit. I look at it once in a while, but I guess I don't really use it that much. Mostly because I don't have time. You get kind of down a rabbit hole once you get on one of them, and then you just can be lost.
So, here's a couple of fun questions we like to ask just about your daily life because as a ranch wife, I'm sure you do a lot of different things on different days, but on a normal day, how quote fixed up would you say you get? Like hair and makeup, nice clothes, or casual, or what's your daily vibe?
Well, I usually am going outside for either chores or running errands or doing stuff. No makeup, very little hair, just kind of very casual, and usually a t-shirt and pair of jeans.
That's me. I love that too. So, are you a morning person or a night owl?
Probably both. I like to get up. If it's show day or sale day or picture day, I can't sleep. I'm ready. I got to be up. And with just work and no kids at home to do stuff with, a lot of times they're gone. I stay up a lot and work on the computer.
Yeah. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you say is your stress level right now? And how do you deal, and probably more importantly, how do you deal with stress in your daily life?
My stress level is always high. I always go 9-0. My daughter says I never sit down. I don't relax. So I just like to be busy, I guess, more than anything. I don't know if it's as much stress as just being busy, being active, being around people. Probably way too much chocolate for stress. And used to be Mountain Dew, but I quit that. But just a little chocolate here and then. And sometimes I'll just go for a walk. My daughter and I just went on a big walk. But if we have time,
I love that. Do y'all like to just walk on the ranch? Y'all walk through the pastures there, or do y'all go to like a park or something?
well, they have moved closer to home, and she is bringing our grandson to preschool over by us. So when she brings him to work, we meet and walk down the highway. And I think every farmer drove by us and talked to us today.
So peaceful. So, I want to move into another segment of the podcast, which is our question of the episode. And for our listeners, I say this every time, but you can go on our website at ranchhousedesigns.com and you can submit a question if you have it. We have been getting some amazing questions, just all kinds of different questions, and you can submit it on anonymously or your name if you like to. And then we try to keep a list of these and kind of match them up with the best guests to answer that. And so for yours, Sheila, I didn't know that your youngest son Ben was in law school until you said it earlier, but this question fits really well. The question we had sent in is, if your children or grandkids grew up and decided they did not want to be involved in the cattle business, how would you feel about that? And I'm not saying Ben is not involved in the cattle business, because I'm sure he is, but the world around us is changing. And do you have any thoughts or advice on that question?
We think the ranch and the cattle place is a great way to raise your kids. And we were just had a gentleman here that bought heifers from us, his daughter's 14, and we were commenting how mature she was for her age. They moved out of the city to raise their kids in the farm because they wanted that life for them. And he said she's learning it from the barn. So, like we all agree, the barn is a great way to raise kids. The ranch, barn, whichever agriculture you're in, is a great way because it teaches them, like I said, like responsibility, life lessons, time management, very, like stress, even like we were just talking about. We're very proud of Ben going to law school. He was a farm broadcaster for a while. He really enjoyed that, but he kind of got an itch, always been kind of an itch to be in politics a little bit, and helped with Senator Bowers when he was in college. And he's always been kind of, so he wanted to go the law route, where it's been extremely hard. He's put his Denver years and comes back for Denver, but we don't see or hear much from him. But he wants to go into international ag law, or he worked for the Kansas Department of Ag Law this summer office, and he really enjoyed rural ag and got to work with all rural ag. So, he's still involved in ag, just in a different way, not on the ranch. And our daughter works for Cargill. She's a protein marketer for Cargill, so they have their own cattle and farm, and she's involved here some, but she's still in ag, but just in a different way, promoting beef and selling it.
Well, that's awesome. I know, I mean, just from anybody who knows your family would can see that you and Kevin have just done an amazing job of raising three exceptional kids. And I think that a lot of the advice you have to share with us today is going to be really good for other moms out there who, probably look at y'all and say, oh, this is, what I want my family to be like. So I can't wait to get into more of the podcast today. So let's kick it into another gear, kind of go a little bit more in depth about your background. Would you just kind of start and share your childhood, where you grew up, what got you into the cattle business? Just take us down your life path.
Well, a few people know I grew up in Manitoba, Canada, a little town called Souris, Manitoba. My dad and his brother farmed together there. They had a dairy farm at first, but then they got into different breeds of cattle. So we lived on a farm, partnership farm. We had Hereford cattle. Back then, we showed my cousins, my sisters and brothers and cousins and all that. At one time, we had 8 heifers in one class at the fair, which would be like the American Royal, like the fair, because we all showed the cattle. So we were very active on the farm. We raised crops, pressed cattle. My dad was involved in Bar 5 Semitols. He was one of the founding members, him and his brother, my uncle. And so they were involved with the Semitols, that most nationwide Semitol operation. So it was all corporate. So he wanted us to be involved more with the cattle. That's how we got into the Herefords. They originally, back in the 70s, 60s, and 70s, showed shorthorns. And like I'd said earlier, my dad had traveled the United States showing. They showed at Chicago and Denver. And we actually had champion shorthorn female. Let me get the dates right. 68, 69, and 70. They had champion shorthorn female in Denver from the Knaber Cornet Leader daughters.
And y'all were still living in Canada at that time?
My folks still live in Canada. Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So that's how we showed Herefords. We actually hosted a field day at our farm, and my dad wanted to start a youth program for the juniors. So we hosted the first Hereford Junior Field Day, and that's where they formed the Canadian Junior Hereford Association. And my oldest sister was one of the founding members of it. So that started on our farm. And so we were active in, just like our kids here, I was active growing up, showing at junior nationals and a lot of county state shows, that kind of deal. Agribition, the Canadian Agribition, we went to it for every year we were growing up, and we showed steers at it and Herefords. And my sister got honored showing 50 years last year. I mean, we showed there forever. So always been involved in cattle my whole life and always liked cattle. So then when we had a junior national, a professor from North Dakota State come and judged our junior national in Manitoba. My dad had him judge, and he introduced us to North Dakota State University. So my sister Shirley, who lives in Virginia right now and is an FFA teacher, and myself and my younger sister Lynn went to North Dakota State. Actually, my brother did too. I forgot. Went to North Dakota State. We were all active on the judging teams and the livestock and meats judging team at North Dakota State. That's where I graduated in '85, and that's where I went to college and how I got introduced to ag colleges down here. In Canada, there was an ag college in Alberta and one in, you could go to Olds or you could go to one, there was another one out east, and we weren't that far from North Dakota, but like we were right on the line, but it was 5 hours to college. And that was the best decision. That was a great experience. Met a lot of people.
So you kind of shared with us when you graduated from North Dakota, you went on the road with the fitting service, right?
Yep.
Tell us about that. Tell us about those days. You might even, I mean, I know what a fitting service is, but like, I don't know if Molly would know what a fitting service is, my daughter. So maybe explain how that started and what y'all did.
Yeah, we were just explaining to the gentleman yesterday that when we went to Louisville, he was trying to encourage us to go to Louisville and how great a show is. And, he's new in the breed. And I said, well, we've been there several years. We know, I said, we took 49 head to Louisville National Hereford show one year. And I thought he was going to fall out of the car. So a fitting service is what we explain. We showed cattle for other people. So people that didn't have the facilities or the opportunity or be able to travel a lot and wanted, back then they had a lot of point shows, so you would go to as many shows as you can so you could have the point cattle to have the show animal of the year and points, so you'd build up points. They called them SOP, Standard Up Perfection Show. So like the people that owned Godfather's Pizza had Hereford cattle. We showed their cattle. We've showed cattle for Randy Owen back then and Teddy Gentry, the Alabama group. They were, before their family had started showing, we showed a lot of their cattle for them. A gentleman that had a seed corn dealership in Illinois that had a really good cow and wanted to promote her. So we were paid to show their cattle. We went to the Cow Palace in California. We've been to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania several times. We've been to Nashville back then when they had the SOP show. That was my first SOP show in Nashville, Tennessee. We took a bull calf down there named Race that won and went on to be 3-time national champion. And then, we'd went to Texas, of course, all the Fort Worth and stock, the Fort Worth stock show. We'd go to it, and in that time we even went to Dallas State Fair several times. But we'd make a state fair run, and we'd go Missouri, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, Tulsa, Dallas. We'd make that whole loop, and they would fit, and we'd go to all the state fairs and take cattle for other people, and they'd come. So that's how we really got to know a lot of people. I mean, that's where our life connections now. We showed for a lot of people in a lot of areas, and
Well, so that whole time, you were on the road constantly, like you weren't coming back home for a few days, or you were just on the road.
when we did the state fair run, we were on the road pretty much the whole time. We on that couple 2-3 weeks. I mean, of course we live in Kansas, so we could stop and regroup. But no, back then, you didn't stay in Airbnbs or fancy hotels. Sometimes you slept in the trailer.
What did you do for laundry?
I'm sure we went to laundromats. I guess I don't remember that part that much. I remember going to Missouri State Fair. We stayed at the Show Me Court Hotel. We were laughing about that the other day. Up in the above the office, they had a big suite room, and that's where, back then you were trying to make a living, and everybody, whatever you could do to save money, everybody just kind of grabbed a cot or a bed. Or we didn't take food like we did now. I suppose we ate at the fair. Like nowadays, everybody takes all the food and It's different, but we had a lot of fun. Met a lot of people.
So at some point, did y'all have to make a decision? I'm just guessing, but that you wanted a little more stability and not so much time on the road. And is that what segued into starting the Jensen Brothers operation full time, or what sparked that?
Well, I think building a cowherd, Kevin, we always you want to have your own place, not always work for somebody. And so, we got to meet a lot of people. We made connections. We had some success with some bull calves and stuff that we had raised out of a cow. And so that started, and we'd get parts of the better end cattle so we could start a program. And when, we got married and started having kids, we, obviously couldn't be on the road all the time. Kevin was still gone a lot. I'd still go quite a bit, but it just, the roles kind of change and age, and just want to have your own place. And we just slowly started building, getting some more land and more cows, and of course that makes you stay home more.
As a young person, I started showing like in 87 and I finished showing in 97 on the junior show circuit. And around that time, Kevin was just a top judge, and he still is, but for me as a young kid down here in Texas, I know Kevin judged a lot of shows, and it was always, someone from out of state, top national breeder, and also the thing I remember about, when they announced the judge of who's like judging, the next thing everybody asks is, like, oh, well, what is he like? Or what's he going to do? And the thing that people always said and say about Kevin is that he is a fair judge. And I always remember going into those shows, you always felt like, well, I know we felt like we don't know who's going to win. It's fair. It's open to everybody. He's going to call it like he sees it. And I that's so important. But maybe would you share your thoughts on Kevin's judging and some of his philosophy and your philosophy as well in that?
Well, Kevin loves to judge. They asked him yesterday, do you like steers or heifers better? He said he likes doing them both, but in my opinion, Kevin loves to judge steers. He really likes to judge fat steer shows. Likes to really like, that's kind of his hobby, is judging. He really likes steers. But any breed, he doesn't really have any preference on breeds. He's judged Beefmasters, Brahmas, Mini Herefords, Shorthorns, Semitoles. I think he's judged every junior national, some of them 2 or 3 times. Doesn't really have any preference. It's just kind of his hobby. He loves to judge and see good cattle.
Yeah, I always love watching him judge, and you too. I know you're just as equally qualified. Let's talk a little bit about your livestock insurance business. If you would share that, when you got into that, and kind of what motivated that move for you to start that business.
Well, this is probably going to surprise you even more, but my folks, mom and dad, had a livestock insurance business also in Canada, and they had it called Stockman Agency. And my mom and dad traveled because they were with the show road and the bull sales so much. Dad selected bulls for Alta Genetics that my mom did the livestock insurance. So my sister that still lives in Canada has Black and Red Angus. She sells livestock insurance, took over the company, and does a fair amount of livestock insurance. So I'd always kind of been in our family. So one year when we had a big string in Louisville, Stuart Wilson from Illinois was the head underwriter at Harding and Harding, Stockman, and out of Illinois. And he approached me and asked me if I'd like to sell livestock insurance. And he had been to our place when I was a kid, and he had shorthorn cattle. He was a field man at that time when we had shorthorn cattle, and he always thought highly of my mom and dad and our place, and he was looking for younger new agents to take over, and that's how I got started doing the insurance.
As you know, we recommend you to every customer we have, and we recommend our customers get livestock insurance at least through like their first calf or until they get semen is kind of what we recommend. But can you walk us through, what does livestock insurance cover? Does it cover death or theft or lightning strike? What does that look like?
Okay, yeah, the livestock insurance frequently asks what does it cover, and I don't want to say a whole lot of things because then somebody else get a claim and say, "Well, you told me it covered it." So, but it's a full mortality policy. It's kind of like a life insurance policy. So, it used to be an option, but now that a lot of the policies do automatically have theft right in with their policy. So it's for major catastrophes for cattle, yeah, like you said, lightning, or they just die, or they have severe injuries and have to be put down. It's a life-threatening policy. So that's pretty much what it does. And a lot of bulls, a lot of people that buy their first season of the bulls will use it. And then of course with the show heifer and show steer business being spending so much money on higher than they ever have, there's been a lot of insurance sold that way just to cover your investment. And so they get, if they have a big loss, it's not such a catastrophe for the family.
Hi, I'm Kirby Fuchs, Vice President of Creative Services here at Ranch House Designs. Every new logo and website we create comes directly through me and our incredible team of project managers. As a farmer's wife, I understand how important it is to have someone guide you through the process and make it simple, stress-free, and professional. When you book a logo or website with RHD, you'll have a dedicated project manager walking alongside you every step of the way. Ready to get started? Request your free consultation at ranchhousedesigns.com.
When you were younger, did you ever feel like you experienced any challenges or stereotypes as a woman in the business? Maybe like those first years that you were out there on the show road, with Kevin and the fitting service. I'm sure y'all had employees. Did you ever have employees that, thought maybe they didn't have to listen to you because you were the wife of Kevin, or any things like that you went through that you could share some advice on to young women in the cattle business now?
No, when we were showing cattle, I never ever felt that way. I felt that always pretty equal with all the rest of the employees and the people, the friends that were helping you. We were, a lot of us were friends and college friends, and we just got along and did our job. I don't recall any of that kind of situations when we were showing, or even today. We have a lot of young college kids come and help us, and I'd say 85% of them are girls that come and help. So their girls just fit right in and just want to do the same work, and the boys respect it, guys. And I don't think it's a gender field.
Hmm. Well, I would say you probably get that respect because you're such a badass. Sorry for my word, but like anybody who knows you and sees you at the shows, they know that you know your business and you can handle your business, and people respect that. Like you said, if you're just there to do the work and work hard, I think people in the cattle business are very receptive to all genders and women, and if you show them that you're there to do the work. So on your day-to-day life, you are a ranch wife, a mom, a grandma. I'm sure you do a little ranch work. You have office jobs like your catalog, your insurance business. Like, what does a normal day look like for you?
Every day's a different day, different challenge. Insurance is kind of seasonal at times. So the summer is slower. We're starting to get into sale season. So there's a lot of late nights with messages. Hey, I bought a heifer today or yesterday. And, there could be a lot of late nights. I just come in and type policies up, and get them mailed. Try to do that morning and night. So I like to be outside. I like to go feed. I like to go check the cattle and, you know, go out and chore. We have a young man that's helping us, but sometimes I'm always the backup, or some days I'm always the only one here just feeding the chores or checking the cows, or depends on if somebody's gone judging, or if somebody's gone to the other ranch and working, then I'll do the show barn, or I'll go to the ranch and check pastures, or it kind of depends on how many people are here. Like tomorrow we're gonna cat foot vaccinate, work on bulls, and preg check cows. So we'll be out there all day, just the different seasonal work. We're fall calving now. We're just about done. Brady's tagging them, got them all about tagged. They're got the cabin. I've got the records. I go in and keep them all on the computer, have the records of everything that's calved. And so it's pretty seasonal. Denver, and we just got through taking pictures and our sale catalog. So I spent a lot of time on the sale catalog. And then, of course, picture day, getting all the help, feeding everybody, just making sure everybody's happy and get the pictures taken. Long days.
What you just described is honestly the reason that we started this podcast. And I try to think of ways to tie both of those in to each episode. And what you really just described is the perfect, description of that, because you're willing to do any job, whether it's physical work or nurturing work of, cooking meals or babysitting or any type of job. And your husband and your family can count on you. And, are you familiar with the Proverbs 31 woman description in the Bible?
No.
You should read it because it's you. It is like you. So like in this Proverbs 31, it describes like what is the ideal wife. And it's like the ideal wife is someone that her husband can trust her. Her husband can count on her to make any business decisions. Like her family is proud of her. She's respected in the community. And like that is you. You're the living, walking example of that. And I love that. I love what you just described of what you do, because sometimes I think women in the business, we don't realize how much we do and how important we are, and how our daily actions are set the pace for our husband, our children, our grandchildren, and it's so important. That was just really great. That was a really great description, but I just really respect you and what you do. So what advice would you have to women who work alongside their husband every day, or maybe that's their goal, that they have a day job in town, but they're hoping that their dream job is one day they and their husband could have a farm together, have a cattle operation together. You've lived that, and what's that like, and what advice would you share?
Well, not every day's the same. Not every day's easy, for sure. And communications is a big part of it. And sometimes communications isn't always worked or isn't always passed along. So then it gets kind of, you can go through some rough times because somebody thinks somebody's done something, fed something, or somebody's not. We try to have a calendar and make sure everybody's kind of on top of what's done or what needs to be done, or who's going to deliverable today, or who's going to go cows, or it's not always easy. You don't get your, let's go to coffee, the typical office job, or go for lunch and coffee at this time every day. You might eat lunch at 2:00. You might not get lunch, or I just realized, what am I going to feed him for lunch today? Because I was going to go to town to get the car worked on here in a little bit, and I'm like, I got leftover hamburgers. So, every day is a challenge, and like I said, they're not always easy, but you got the same goals and the same caring, how much you care about your operation and your image, and you just keep at it.
Mm-hmm. Do you and Kevin ever go on dates that are not cattle related?
A little bit. A lot of them are cattle trips when we go, but we went to New Zealand and Australia when he judged. Of course, then we go to Agribition. A lot of them are around his judging trips or going to look at livestock, but that's what we like to do.
Yeah, I don't ask that in a judging manner because Brandon and I, we don't go on any dates. If we get to drive around and look at calves in the evening, just in a quiet moment, we like that as a date, but we're in the same boat. So let's kind of wrap up if you're ready. Gosh, I have really enjoyed this, and I know a lot of our listeners will too, but before we have a final question, but before we do, can you share with our listeners what's the best way for people to get in touch with you? Like if they want to learn more about y'all's Hereford operation or even your insurance services, what's the best way for them to look you up online?
Well, we are on Facebook. I personally am Sheila Jensen on Facebook. I have some people message me on their insurance. That's the thing with this world nowadays. You get texts, you get emails, you get messages. phone, so it's hard to keep up on that when you were talking about that earlier. But we have our website is jensenbros.net, and then we have Jensen Brothers Herefords Facebook page. So they're always up to date. I just updated my Facebook and website the other day because we have an upcoming sale here in October, and we also have a banner ad on the Hereford website. We have card ads in magazines, like I advertise for the insurance in the Brahma Journal, Hereford World, Stockman, several different papers and magazines. So this week I've had a lot of word of mouth. I have a lot of text messages and calls saying, hey, this guy or gal recommended me for you for insurance. They've used them and they like them. So a lot of it has been since COVID. The insurance, you used to travel to every sale and go day and night, a lot of travel. And since COVID and people stayed home more, it's been a lot more in the office and people contact you by phone or email or message or whatever.
So look them up, and as I mentioned a couple times, we highly recommend Sheila for her insurance. So if anybody's listening, feel free to look her up. Okay, so we have one last question for you, and it would be, what is your favorite animal you've ever raised or shown, and why?
Cocoa Cream was a heifer that my daughter showed at a junior national in Louisville in 2017. She went on to win the bred no as a calf, bred known and owned show. She won showmanship with her, and then from there on, she became one of our power donors, like our feature animals in all our sales. And I always get comments, we just want a Cocoa daughter. So, and we raised Cocoa Cream out of a female we bought from a friend of ours. And it's just always good to hear, even people the other day, there's no Cocos in the sale. We just want a Cocoa daughter. So she'd be one of my favorite ones.
Is she still around? Is she still in production?
No, she's not in production. We lost her last year, and actually, she's buried on the farm right beside the pitcher pen. So, yeah, she was one of my favorites. I mean, there's been several, but right off the top of my head, I guess that would be one of my favorite memory ones. And there's more coming, and there was probably some bulls back in the Fitting Davis. The Raceway and the Trustmark was kind of a big genetic influence back then, and they were very influential in getting our fitting service going and up is those bulls. So
There was a very iconic picture that I think of when I think of y'all a lot in your advertising, that was like a headshot kind of a Hereford bull. Do you know which one I'm talking about? You've used it for years, I think. Like, it looks like he was out in a pasture and like maybe called the calling the cows or something.
yeah, we use it on the front of our bull sale catalog, and we've used it a lot.
Which bull is that?
It was actually a herd bull that was out there by Heidi Anderson was here taking our daughter's senior pictures, and that bull was there, and we need a bull, and she took a whole bunch of pictures, and they were so perfect that we used them. And we used Leader was one of the bulls that was the bull that pictured at Bellers, and we had bought him. I don't know if it's too long a story, but the reason the bull is named Leader, we bought him from Roush's in South Dakota to build our herd up, and we wanted to change his name. And if any of the Shorthorn people, if you remember any of this in the days, well, the prominent Shorthorn breeder, that bull that my dad found that changed the Shorthorn breed, was Leader. His name was TPS Cornet Leader. So I always wanted to name a bull after that, and that's the bull that I named the Leader. I used his name.
I do remember that name of the bull. I had no idea that your dad was the person behind him, because this was quite a bit long ago, right? In the 80s, maybe, when that bull was around.
The Shorthorn bull Leader would have been back in the early 60s. There were several leaders, though. But the original Leader was a white Shorthorn bull that my dad drove down to Omaha to the Shorthorn Congress, and he bought him for like $2,700. Very reasonable. I should know, but he gathered up money thinking he was going to have to spend a fortune, and he had partners, and he bought him, and he was a big frame bull, and he changed the Shorthorn breed, and there's zillions of Shorthorns go back to them. And those 3 females we won Denver with, Shorthorns, were leader daughters.
So TPS Coronet Leader 21st, I just Googled it. And yes, that is a really cool looking bull. Everybody listening to the podcast should Google it because he is solid white and very big, like you said.
He was big frame back in the times, and he changed the breed. I actually have an oil painting of him hanging in our living room, and a lot of the college kids come here and they go, why do you have a Charolais bull in here?
I know some of my early Shorthorn show heifer pedigrees had him in it because I know that name. And so I think I would have remembered it like from sales talk or something like that. But I never knew what the bull looked like. So that is very cool. Well, Sheila, this has been great. I have really enjoyed it. So I just want to wrap up by saying, thanks everyone for listening to us. And thank you, Sheila, for all of your insight. You're really an inspiration to women in the cattle business, and we appreciate you.
Well, thank you very much. We're just gearing up for the World Hereford Conference. Is going to be in the United States. And so that's coming up in a couple weeks. So we've already had international people, and we just enjoy hosting people and showing cattle and talking cattle, and that's just been our lifestyle. So I enjoy all fragrance. That's why in the insurance, we even at one time collected semen on bulls here with Hawkeye breeders for years, and we just met so many people, and it's been a blessing.
Yes, well, thank you so much. All right, guys, thanks for joining us.